We are so back. Davy Back. So I read chapter 1155. My favorite theory has legs once more. I really need to put out theory videos before they're like proven right, because this has been in my back pocket for so long. So the theory. People think the final fight is going to be a war like Marineford, right? But I think it's going to be a less conventional war. It's going to be a big fight in a certain way, but I think it's going to be a Davy Back fight. I mostly just want this to happen because it's super fun. I've never been a fan of all the big like battles that go on in One Piece. Most of the fighting is just kind of like a slower way of progressing the story when it comes to just narrative. It probably seems like blasphemy, but I kind of wish battles in One Piece were about half as long, because the final battle of an arc usually takes up about 50% of it. I really wish it would take about 1/3 instead. And for Battle Shonen, I get it. It makes total sense. But what if instead it's actually just kind of a bunch of games where it's still like competitions, but it's actually like really just a fun and unique experience for every matchup that happens for this final battle. And I thought of this idea when thinking about how Shanks and Luffy would like come into conflict once they finally do get the chance to meet, because Shanks is now shooting for the One Piece. He says it at the end of Wano that he's actually going after that, even though he doesn't really seem to care about the One Piece as for its own right. So why is he going after it? It feels like he's kind of just wanting to throw his hat in the ring just to make sure there's like a healthy competition for it almost. Like he's wanting to push to make sure that the person who gets it is, I don't know, the strongest they can be. It's hard to tell exactly what Shanks wants, but he's always preparing for the future. That's kind of Shanks' whole deal. So I think Luffy versus Shanks is going to be a pretty lighthearted affair. If Luffy versus Shanks is for the One Piece, then it would totally make sense to me that they would both kind of want to do a Davy Back fight for it, just to kind of have some fun in a competition for the One Piece. And from there, I started spiraling, because then I thought, well, Buggy would get in on this too, right? Buggy versus Shanks. There's no way that Buggy would just like leave them to do a Davy Back fight on their own. Buggy is pissed at Shanks all the time. There's no way that Buggy wouldn't just insert himself into that. And then I thought, oh shit, that's 3 emperors that now would want to Davy Back fight over this One Piece, because who in the world could stop 3 emperors at that point? And from there, the idea just kind of became like solidified in my head as to what my ideal final fight would be. I'm not going to be mad if it's different, but you remember YuYu Hakusho? If you don't, the final saga is the 3 Kings saga. And Yusuke, being one of the kings inherited from his father, wants a tournament. And he convinces another of the kings to also go in on this tournament. And the third is then forced into it because there's this precarious balance between the 3 powers where if one kills the other, they'd be powerless to stop the third one from swooping in and gaining control of the entire demon world. And so as soon as 2 agree, the balance of power is tipped, and so now your hand is forced. You either go along with 2 of the 3 factions, or they're going to team up against you. They're fighting against you at that point, and you can't handle 2 of them. And it's done very well, to the point where it like totally makes sense. It's not just like contrived, like they have their own motives and reasonings for doing this. It's advantageous for each and every party to do it this particular way, to do a tournament. And then I keep wanting to apply that to One Piece, because we know from the power scaling that the entirety of the Marines were needed to take down Whitebeard and his extended forces. And they said 2 emperors teaming up, like when Kaido and Big Mom teamed up, they're like, there's nothing we can do to stop them. They've now become the most powerful force in the world, with 2 emperors teaming up with each other. And so 3 emperors, I don't think there's like anything they could do about that. And if the emperors offered the world government a chance to get the One Piece from between all 3 of them, then they'd probably take them up on that offer to get the chance at the One Piece, because they don't want pirates having it, I'm pretty sure. And Blackbeard is kind of the wild card in this, but I mean, we also kind of got a bit of evidence that he might be into it, because I could totally see him going along with it just for the fun of it, just for the kind of adventure of it, and plus possibly because he thinks it's also his best way to get a hold of the One Piece. Like, he's always kind of like the master planner who's also good at improvising. So if this situation was put at his doorstep, he'd probably be like, sounds like a good chance to get the One Piece. I'm in. And also, it's not like he has to follow in his father's footsteps, but it does help in a narrative sense that Rox was his father, and Rox also is prominently connected to the Davy Back fights. And so at that point, if all 4 emperors are behind it, what's the world government going to do? They can't stop 4 emperors, and they don't want pirates to get the One Piece. And so it seems like maybe the best thing they could do is to just play along with it. Akainu is already stuck doing stupid stuff all day, and he's getting all pissed at it. And this is kind of just like that taken to an extreme. Can you imagine Akainu like being forced to play a game for the One Piece for the fate of the world? It's like an extreme version of being stuck behind a desk for him. I think that would be very fun. And Emu, guess what? Emu's a gamer. Like seriously, Emu's playing Othello. Like everything's kind of being associated with these childlike things with Emu. I really think Emu would be okay with the Davy Back fight, dude. And so much silly stuff could happen with lots of battles that can go down in just really weird and interesting ways. Like Sanji versus Shiryu, hide and seek, sure. Zoro versus Mihawk on the middle of a floor is made of lava game, why not? Luffy versus Akainu and like Groggy Ring, sounds good. Luffy versus Emu playing some combat version of Othello, like hell yeah. It just opens the doors for so many silly things, and the One Piece could keep getting like passed back and forth between parties with these games, and they each keep trying to steal it from each other with the Davy Back fight rules. And like everyone could get a hold of the One Piece briefly and become the Pirate King briefly. Like we all know that Buggy's gonna get it at some point, so he could just like have it right before Luffy snatches it from him for a brief moment. Buggy's king of the pirates. And in Jump Festa 2023, Oda's note did mention that this final saga would be a big battle royale. It just seems, I don't know, it might be me stretching, but it seems pretty fun. Seems like a fun idea. The counter argument to this is SBS 97 did call it a quote great war, but you know, it doesn't have to be a traditional war. Come on. But yeah, 1155, chapter 1155 brought legitimacy to my theory. This has been something I've been wanting for like years now, and it's making it more relevant. Oda expects his readers to last about 5 years before like falling off and losing interest. Like that's kind of his goal, is to keep it accessible for those people who only pick it up and read it for a little while. So if an old concept from like 15 years ago, like the Davy Back fight, is going to become relevant again, then he's got to reintroduce that. And so he reintroduced the Davy Back fight and sticks it to one of the world's most prominent historical figures. It is so important now. So when you do that, I mean, it just makes me sit up and take notice, right? I mean, come on. And this is a manga that's increasingly becoming more and more preoccupied with the idea of bringing joy rather than having angsty fights. And I personally want the final battle to be able to reflect that. I think that would be a great way to tie everything together. And if the series does happen to go in this direction, I mean, a lot more pieces fall into place, like the identity of Davy Jones and how the first war happened and how Emu ties into the Davy Back fights. And so that is something that I will get into very soon. I wanted to get this out so that everyone knows that I thought of this a long time ago. I wanted this forever ago. And everyone who agrees with me that the Davy Back fight was important, we did it, gang. We made it. But I'm genuinely curious, where do you land on the chances of the final fight being a Davy Back fight? Like, considering all this evidence, is this actually somewhat reasonable? Did I convince anyone? There's not much definitive evidence supporting it, but it's just like what I think would be the most fun ending. You know, if I were to make One Piece, that's how I'd do it. So thanks for watching.